This is episode 1153.
Because what we want to do is to make sure that we have the ability to go very aggressively on the M&A side. We want to continue expanding very aggressively on that front. And I need to make sure that I have, the ability to finance that growth, making sure that that financing is in place in a way that not only cover my current needs, but my future needs, which are pretty aggressive, are the things that I'm focusing a lot at this moment. Obviously, keep growing my team, in terms of their leadership skills and making sure that they are very involved, that they learn the business more. This AI piece, making sure that we as a company are very aligned as to, how this tool is going to impact our work and that we manage it ourselves. And definitely, making sure that I provide the right information for the commercial teams and the operation teams to make the right decision.
Some CFOs learn discipline inside big, established organizations. Others learn speed by building something from scratch. What makes this conversation interesting is how today's guest has lived both and now operates at the intersection of structure, risk, and rapid change. We talk a lot about transformation in finance, but transformation doesn't happen in slides. It happens when capital decisions, people decisions, and technology decisions collide in real time. In this episode, we explore what finance leadership looks like when growth ambitions are high, AI is moving faster than strategy, and the CFO's job is as much about judgment and influence as it is about numbers. Stay with us. There's a lot to unpack here.
Why are finance teams struggling right now? It's not a lack of skill, it's a lack of time. Even the most talented finance pro has twice as much work as they can handle, if not more. Automation with AI is critical just to survive, let alone reach peak performance. But you don't want just any AI solution. You want one built with finance users in mind. This is where Planful comes in. It's a platform that transforms how you plan, budget, forecast, and more. And with Planful AI, you can transform how you work without sacrificing control. Use Planful AI to streamline workflows, detect anomalies, plan with precision, and get more done. Everything Planful AI assists you with is fully auditable and secure, so you can reduce your manual work and stay proactive, agile, and confident in every decision. Your finance team deserves to be elevated above the repetitive tasks. The best part is, you can get started right away. See Planful AI in action and start elevating your team today.
Hello, CFO Jorge Pliego is with us. Jorge's career spans global consumer brands and technology-driven organizations with leadership roles across finance, audit, treasury, and operations. He spent more than a decade at Diageo, where he led finance for complex multi-country businesses across Latin America and the Caribbean. He later transitioned into the technology sector, applying global operating experience to finance leadership in IT services organizations. Today, as CFO of Improving, Jorge focuses on value creation and disciplined execution across a global technology services organization. Jorge, welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity and the space to talk to you and your public over here. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us. And as you might know, we always begin by asking the guest to look back and try to identify some of those experiences you feel prepared you for the CFO office. What would come to mind for you?
It's very interesting. I would say, if I have to summarize it, Jack, it had to do with the opportunity to have big responsibilities very early in my career, to have the opportunity to be exposed to senior management also very early in my career and be able to learn how they make decisions, how they debate among themselves, and how they see businesses in a very ample way beyond just a very functional, specific way. And so those things, I would say, Jack, are the ones that I had the opportunity to learn very early in my career, to incorporate in the way I think and I do things. And I would say that has been a key element that has made me, progress in my career through all these many years.
And interestingly, just for the listener, I just want to mention the early chapters of your career have some pretty big brand names among them. I mean, it's P&G, it's Kellogg, it's even Sara Lee, I think, jumps on the resume down there. So here you are in these very large finance organizations. And like you said, it was the exposure to more senior folks within those organizations that began to shape you.
Right.
You know, was there when you think back to those early years, was there a specific lesson from your experience that even impacts your decision making today?
Yeah, I can tell you, Jack, one of them, which was very interesting, and it was at the very early point in my career at Procter & Gamble. I joined them right finishing college. After a few years, I went to study my master's, and Procter didn't learn the lesson and ended up hiring me back after the master's. And one of the things that I told them is that I was very interested in a treasury role. I come from a family of bankers. I worked in a bank for the summer times during, from the time I was 14 years old through my 20s. And, I ended up joining Consumer Products, which I love, a great company, P&G. And then after coming back from the master's, that they said, okay, you want a treasury, we're going to give you treasury. And it was a point in time where P&G decided to expand significantly in Mexico at that time. They wanted to expand in the paper products facility. And the easiest thing to finance that facility was just to, hey, Mr. Corporate guys in Cincinnati, I'm going to need $400 million to do this. Please send us the cash and we will make sure we invest it properly. Instead of that, Jack, I was given the opportunity to really look at ways to do that financing in a different way. We managed taking advantage of a lot of incentives, on the financing side and on the tax side that were available in Mexico at that time. The company believed in my ideas and my proposals. They really empowered me to carry that project. We ended up financing it locally in Mexico in a structure that ended up costing zero in terms of interest cost at the end of the day. And I would say that was a great experience for someone that young. I was in my late 20s at that time, and having the opportunity to lead such a project, to convince very senior people, not only in Mexico, but in the corporate office to do that, and the support that I got from them was something that definitely shaped my, my thinking, my self-confidence, and the way you can accomplish things if you're convinced that they are the right ones.
I'm just curious, if you wouldn't mind indulge us here. Your first trip to Cincinnati, and what,
Yes.
Did they come often? I mean, is it an annual sort of thing that would happen, or?
It will depend, I would say, Jack, on the role that you were doing. When I joined P&G, the assignment that I got was the implementation of, a part of the implementation of the ERP, the MM3000 at that time. So I'm talking in the early 80s. And that was a global initiative. I was responsible for that in Mexico. It was the costing system that was then going to drive the accounting and the reporting. But the key piece was manufacturing and costing to begin with. So that took me from the very first year I joined the company to a few trips to Cincinnati to learn what they were doing in the U.S., how they were doing it. It was very interesting because U.S. used to have, I remember, standard costs at that time, but in Mexico we had inflation of 100% per year, if you can imagine at that time. So standard cost is not a very common concept. So we have to adapt, whatever there was in the U.S. in terms of those processes and measurements to the reality that we had in Mexico. No? But again, a great opportunity, a great learning for me, great experiences in that time. And when I was doing the treasury role afterwards, there were also quite a few visits to convince the very senior treasury guys on what we wanted to do there.
Yeah. Hey, the other company, I thought you invested a decade at a company known as Diageo. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Tell us about this company.
Yes.
It's like, is it some of the beverages? It's in beverage manufacturing, distribution, or help clarify for us the nature of the business. Many listeners might know it, but many probably don't.
No, absolutely. It's a fantastic company. I would say, Jack, is the largest spirit company in the world. Pernod Ricard is the main competitor. Diageo has fantastic global brands like Johnny Walker, like Ketel One, like the Zacapa Rum, Baileys, Guinness. The beer is part of that portfolio as well. So a fantastic company. When I joined them, that was in Mexico City. I was the CFO of Mexico City when I was hired. It was was a brand new executive team for the market. A couple of people that already came from Diageo, but all the rest of us came from the outside world. And it was a great opportunity where Diageo before that time was really not investing heavily in Mexico. They were using Cuervo as the distributors. But at that time it was 2007, they finally decided, okay, let's go heavily after the Mexico market. We worked, the new management team, pretty interestingly, in tripling the size of the market in Mexico, and we did it. It was a very aggressive, very adventurous strategy that I'm going to tell you a bit more later as well. But that's the company Diageo is. It's a great global brand developer and constructor of fantastic products, top quality products, and a people-oriented company, I would say as well, Jack, which makes a big difference.
So interestingly, as you mentioned, you were perhaps the CFO of the Mexican market then, is that right, for that company?
That's when I joined them, correct.
Say something about, just in regards to risk, let's say, how did that experience change the way you assess risk?
It was significant, because when we were, and actually, the interesting thing, Jack, we didn't get the mandate from the corporation, like go and triple the size of the company. We were empowered to define what is it that we wanted to do with the market. And it was through all these, strategic conversations that we had as a management team that we concluded that there was that possibility definitely of premiumizing the Mexican market. Tequila was very strong at that moment, but it was already in its fading stage of the growing curve, if you like. So we were the ones who went back to the corporation and say, hey, if we do these investments and we managed to engage people, which was a key component, engage our people in this way, engage our stakeholders, our consumers in this sort of way, we have the ability to triple the size of this business. And obviously, the risk piece for me was like, they're going to be putting a lot of money. We better make sure that we are investing in the way we said, that we are carefully measuring, hey, is this strategy working well or not? And if not, we had to very quickly course correct, with a long-term view, but obviously very carefully assessing, it's not only what you're doing, it's how is the competition reacting to what you're doing that we needed to measure and understand. No? So for me, Jack, the key strategic piece was to make sure that I was bringing finance to the rest of the company and the rest of the management team in a way that it was very understandable for them. So when we assess risk, it was not risk just from the CFO perspective. It was a risk from the business perspective that we all managed to assess and all managed to basically mitigate and continue doing what we were doing. So that's what I can tell you in terms of that particular experience that was really great.
And if help me understand the nature of the relationship to the offerings, like the relationship with Johnny Walker Black or even the Guinness folks. I mean, are these relationships that over time finance would get involved with to better, need to tweak given the competitive dynamics that exist? Or how did that work?
Yes. Yeah. Jack, and I would say it depends many times on the people, on the person. If you show the interest and you're willing to get involved, like I can tell you in my first year, I think I went to activities every other day, because I wanted to learn how is it that we are, doing the activations in the on-trade, how we're doing activations in the off-trade, how were we negotiating with our top customers, even consumer interviews and analysis. I tried to be present. The company was definitely open to have finance being very involved in the business. I tried to basically pass that on to my finance team, and they were very engaged. These are great brands, great products, so people like it to be very involved with the brands themselves. And definitely, they welcome and they receive very well, the input of finance people in these marketing decisions, if you will.
So today you've operated as a CFO in environments where growth, capital markets, and organizational strain at times have converged quickly. What did those conditions teach you about the limits of finance leadership? Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting because as you were saying at the beginning, I did 29 years in these very large consumer product companies. And then I moved into the IT world that has private equity involved in it as well. Main difference, I would say, Jack, is the speed at what things happen. In the IT world, and when you have a private equity invested in as well, you have things moving very quickly. You will do a lot of acquisitions. You will do, quick decisions in terms of funding here and funding there. You got to be very close to your banks because as you're growing, you're investing a lot. It's not that you have excess cash that you can be, sleeping quietly every night. No, the cash needs are things that keep you awake from time to time. So what I learned from these very large companies that I translated into my new IT experience is discipline, but along with discipline, I would say, Jack, is the notion of not being stressed about things. People watches you, people observes how you're reacting to things, to problems, to challenges. If you show yourself stress, you're very likely going to stress your team. Now, so to me, the learning was no matter how complex, make sure that you are objective, that you are, if you're the one that is stressed, well, keep it to yourself. Don't stress the rest of the team. Make them feel confident, make them feel comfortable, involve them in the problem, involve them in the challenges, but in a way that they are really focused on helping you solve issues. No? So I would say that's one of the things that I brought from these big experiences. And the other one that I'm a big fan of is people growth. I'm a firm believer that if we're going to leave a footprint in this world, it's through the people that works with us. So I put a lot of effort and a lot of time also in making sure I'm growing my teams. I learned that in all these fantastic big multinationals, and it's something that I really devote myself also in the IT companies that I have been before and that I'm at Improving doing now.
Well, we want to ask you about Improving, but just
Sure.
one last question here. As you look back, which career transition, again, and we've kind of done an overarching span overview of your career, which career transition perhaps most expanded your perspective as a CFO? Which one of those transitions, perhaps?
Yeah, let me tell you, and it was a very, very interesting shift. When I ended up leaving Procter & Gamble and moving to Sara Lee, Sara Lee was just starting in Mexico. I was the second employee on board, so you can imagine moving from a very structured, very, very well-established company like P&G to a full startup, obviously with the support of the parent company, but a full startup from the very beginning. I had to really to learn, things that I didn't know even existed. Like, how do you import product? In P&G, you will pick up the phone and say, I need X amount of cases of Downy, and they will be in your warehouse 5 days later. No, over here is I was in the Hanes division of Sara Lee, the underwear and clothing and all that, and just having to learn, what do you need in a label in a garment to be able to import it from the U.S. into Mexico. We had a lot of maquilas in the north, but it was not that easy to move product from the maquilas into the local market. You have to export them back to the U.S. and re-import them into Mexico. So, very basic things like that. Choosing our system. How are we gonna control the business? How are we gonna report it, etc.? Have to hire the people. It taught me how to set up, a business in a way that you have to be careful with every single detail. theory from execution excellence that you need to have in order to grow a business like we did in Sara Lee very quickly in the years that I was there. It really put me in a very different level of demand that I really had to leverage fully, all the things that I learned at P&G. And also it forced me to take a lot more risks, I would say, Jack. At P&G, because of the way the company is structured, usually risks are very well capped, well defined. At Sara Lee, I had the chance and the obligation, I would say, to be very, very bold many times in, okay, let's import this amount of product. We believe we're going to be able to place it. And there is a lot of investment that is going to go into inventory. Are we going to do these promotions? And we don't know if they're going to work or not. So it was a lot of learning that basically challenged me big time. I would say 180 degrees swing in my responsibilities and in my, the way I had to operate from what I did at P&G. Okay. It was probably the most challenging one.
Well, we might have a few more career-related questions for you later, Jorge, but right now let's find out about this company, Improving. We're your CFO today.
Sure.
Tell us about it. What's this company about? What are its offerings?
Yes. Yeah, it's a great company, Jack. And, if you look at our website and people have a chance to look at it, you will learn a lot about what we do. But we call ourselves a modern, I would say, digital IT consulting company. No. What does that mean? And probably a question that you might have also is, how is AI impacting our business? How are we dealing with this AI wave and fashion that is hitting the world big time now? So let me probably explain this in a bit of a graphic way. Think of a flywheel, that has 3 components on the outside and 1 on the center. The components in the outside are AI, are data, and are your applications. And in the center, you have your platforms. Mm-hmm. What has happened in the last year, for probably 18 months, I would say, there has been a big shift in investment from the companies, either from the app development or from the platform modernization and development or integration or data into AI. But reality is, companies have done that more in the hope of achieving efficiencies very quickly without necessarily knowing how to do it. And if you have been a user of AI on the personal side, you know that AI is like a very hungry monster. You feed it with data, and immediately it's going to give you an output, but it's going to ask you immediately, I need more. I want more. If you incorporate this and that, I'm going to be able to give you better information and better solutions. So what we help companies do and understand, and that's what we do at Improving first, help them understand what is it that AI can do for them today based on what they have. And then we help them assess what is it that needs to be done in order for AI to be very productive and a profitable investment for them? And that very likely is going to have to do with the data that they have. We're going to need to make it better. We're going to need to make it bigger and more consistent and even longer in history. And to do that, guess what? You're going to have to develop your apps. You're going to have to do better platform modernization, etc., which is what Improving has been doing all along. So we're a company that has been historically very, very strong on the platform integration, app modernization, data generation, and AI is a component that we're now bringing into the picture, but in a way in which we are not just pushing it to customers, but really helping customers understand how is it that it works, what is it that they need to make it effective. And from there is that we help them craft a proper strategy that is going to lead them to make AI very efficient for them. We ourselves, Jack, have also developed a few agents that help us be more efficient in our work, and I can tell you one of them, we call it Code Explorer. And what this tool will do is it will go and customers are very large, Fortune 500 companies that have multiple platforms in their businesses, multiple apps, multiple sets of data. And what you find many times is that there is a lot of inconsistencies. This platform is generating X data, this other one same data, but in a different way, and which one is the real source of truth here, So this tool that we developed, and actually, we don't sell it to our customers. We use it as a wedge to generate information and opportunities. What it will do is that it will look at all of these platforms. It will look at your data. It will look at your apps, and it will tell you, hey, you have a version over here in this platform that is inconsistent with this other one that you have over there. And guess what? Your data is resulting in something very inconsistent. You didn't incorporate this acquisition on a pro forma basis properly, but you did in these other 5 or 6. So therefore, your pro forma data has also inconsistency. So this tool, just to give you an example, we run it with a very large financial institution recently. It resulted in 60 projects that need to be done for them, in order to have data that will be productive for an AI tool to come in and start generating benefits for them. So that's a lot of what we do. Where training is something that Improving has done from its origin,
right.
And our approach tends to be very collaborative in that sense. We like to help our customers understand things. We like them to own things. We don't come with templates and tell them, this is what you have to do. There's your package solution, go and run it. Now, we like them to be owners of what we develop for them. We like them to learn with us on what we're doing.
Yeah.
And that all has resulted, I can tell you, in really long-standing relationships, more productive relationships. They appreciate a lot the way we kind of collaborate with our customers, people and teams, and make them own the solutions.
Can you tell us a little bit about its capital structure? Can you an abbreviated history, perhaps? Is this privately owned?
Sure, absolutely. We still have our founders running the business. Curtis Hyde, our CEO, he was the founder. Rick Deanda is responsible for the M&A side, and they're still pretty much in the running of the business. The business grew, very interestingly on the M&A front without a lot of cash, just basically convincing other companies of similar sizes that joining forces will be good for them. And that's how the business grew to probably a size of about 100 million before the private equity joined us, in our case, Trinity Hunt Partners, which has been a fantastic partner as a private equity.
When did that happen? Because you joined the firm in 2022, and when does the private equity partner, was it already part of the mix?
Yeah, 2019 is when they joined. Yep. So, in my previous experience, I was also involved with actually 3 private equities in the firm I was with. So I had the experience of dealing with private equities. It's a company that we took public in 2021. So I had that experience as well. Really liked it a lot, that background on my side. And, when we had the opportunity to talk to each other and talk to Curtis and the Improving team, we thought it was going to be a nice marriage. And that's how I ended up here. Very happy. A fantastic company.
What strikes us is that, we know these IT services organization space, very competitive, hard to distinguish yourself. You just explained this era of AI. The plan is to distinguish the fact that you can help companies map out their strategy first before trying to execute a template. That's not what you're about. You really want to understand the strategy of the company. That can be expensive. You got to hire some strategic thinkers. Not just people who tweak the software. So the role that finance can play is to help the organization understand what's the approach. What's the model? How can we make this work without shooting ourselves in the foot by hiring too many expensive strategy-minded executives? I don't know, but it seems to me that's how you might distinguish yourself, but you got to be careful.
Absolutely, Jack. You're hitting it right on the head. It's one of the things that we place a lot of attention. I will tell you a bit how I think I have influenced that personally. But one of the things that we place a lot of attention, for instance, is a key metric, which is utilization in our case. I believe, distinguish ourselves by having very high utilization of our teams and having the ability to recruit pretty strong, good talent when needed. Now we have global recruiting teams that operate very, very close together with the operation. We have visibility, like our recruiting teams and our global sourcing teams have visibility not only of the needs today, but they're very, very close to our pipe of opportunities. They have the conversations with the operating leaders ahead of time and with sales so that they understand what are the resources that are going to be needed in the next 3 to 6 months. And by the same token, they know which consultants may be coming to bench if the assignment's finished, and they try to make the best match possible.
Yeah.
If we don't have a match, then we go outside and hire. But in terms of what you were saying, the more senior leaders, we also invest a lot in our people. People who we believe has the possibility to step up into these strategic roles. We make sure we do the right training, with the providing with the right exposure, with the right opportunity to grow into the roles. And one example I tell you, people, very, very good people that has come through the acquisitions that we have done throughout the years are really, taking over very senior roles in the company. Our CIO, our Chief Integration Officer, the MD of the US. These are people that came from acquisition that have grown into these strategic senior roles. No? So what I do personally, Jack, is, I try to put a lot of discipline on our data generation, a lot of speed into making sure that when I joined the company 3 years ago, we were closing on the 20th. We shaved the closing time by 10 days. Yeah. And that allows us to very quickly report the business, very quickly highlight what are the risks, the opportunities that we should be focusing on.
Since you arrived, again, in 2022, how many acquisitions have there been on while you're CFO?
Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's like 7 or 8 so far, Jack.
Yeah. And do you think in many of these acquisitions, is it the technology or the approaches that you're acquiring, or is it the people? is there a component that's and you already told us that some of those people are strategic for you.
Yes.
Yep.
All of the above, I would say, Jack, with a lot of emphasis on people. I would say we can be looking at a great business in paper in terms of the spreadsheets, but if we feel the people are not going to be the right partners, I tell you, we have passed on opportunities because of that situation. So a key element is, who are we bringing into improving? There has to be, coincidence in values, consistency in the way they think about their teams as well, the way they like to grow within the company, and that has a heavy influence in our decision to bring a company. We have also gone, through significant geographic expansion. For instance, we did expanding in Canada significantly. We have 5 enterprises in Canada. All of them, the majority of the revenue is generated in the US, but very capable talent in Canada that delivers that. We expanded in Latin America significantly. So we used to have delivery out of Mexico only. Now we have delivery out of Mexico, Guatemala, Costa Rica, Argentina, and Chile. And this year we decided to expand into India as well. Now all these offerings that we have brought are really, not just bodies or headcount. It's really people that is very specialized in certain solutions. If I can tell you one, for instance, the India one, it's people very specialized in Kubernetes, which is a technology that works heavily on making data management very efficient. So that technology, which we used to have on a spotty basis across the company, now we have it heavily through the India component that we brought. So it's a mix of things that we look at when we bring an acquisition, I would say, Jack.
Yeah, and it's still early, but as you gave us this overview, how AI is changing the way Improving delivers value to its customers, are you able to tell us where you're seeing the earliest impact?
Yeah, it's in the speed, I would say, to generate insights for customers, Jack, like this Code Explorer that I was telling you, this tool that we're using. Yeah. it did the work of assessing, hey, you have these 60 projects that you have to work on before you really think in an AI very effective solution. If we would have done it without the Code Explorer tool, probably it would have taken us 3-4 months, no? So we managed to do this within a week. And that's where we see the impact. Now, there may be a fear, and you may have seen it, in many places where is that going to displace people? Are you going to replace people by AI tools? We don't think so, and we think it's actually going to be the opposite. Companies are going to realize that now they can do a lot more with the same. If you talk to companies, they can tell you, I have this huge backlog of projects that I never managed to tackle because budgets only allow me to do this many. Well, now same budgets are going to allow you to do a lot more. If we do an analogy, think when Excel came up, it was fear that it's going to be the end of the finance analyst and the accounting people because now Excel is going to do everything. Well, guess what? There is more finance professionals and accountant than ever before because Excels need people that help them generate the value on what they produce. So I think it's going to be similar with AI. Companies will realize that now they have the ability to do a lot more, to be more competitive. Obviously they will realize some savings. I'm not saying that 100% of the investment will be redone every time. People would like to see benefits. But in general, I think people and companies will realize, hey, we need to do more and more. This is an opportunity to be more competitive with the same amount of investment. Let's make sure that we capture that opportunity, that competitiveness, and that we're better than anyone else investing the same amount of money. So that's where we see AI coming into in the coming years, I would say.
All right. Well, Jorge, thank you for a nice overview. We want to ask you for a finance strategic moment. This might have happened anytime during your career. We're looking just for a good story about how finance plays a strategic role.
No, it's a great question, Jack. And let me tell you, I believe the experience that I was mentioning before at Diageo, where we were poised to grow the business by 3 times in a lapse of 3 years, was a great example of that, where for 6 months, we were devoted to craft the strategy, marketing, sales, operations, and finance working together. And how is this going to happen? How are we going to triple a market that was already large, very competed with a heavy influence of tequila? And but we did it. We convinced the corporation that the investments and the risks that we were going to take were worth it. We inspired our people. That was a key element. Inspiring our people to deliver on the demands that we were putting on ourselves was a key element. Empowering them to be successful was definitely decisive in accomplishing this. And then putting the right measurements, the right visibility in how is it that we were delivering against the strategy and be able to course correct quickly were key elements in making this big, bold ambition successful at the end of the period of the 3 years that we put ourselves as target. So that I would say has been one that I feel very proud about.
Excellent. We'll move on to our mentoring round where we're going to ask you to look back again one last time. When you first stepped into a CFO role, when all of the responsibilities fell on your shoulders for the first time, can you just tell us, you had observed CFOs for many years, but now the responsibilities were yours. There must have been something that surprised you about the role, something you did not expect. What might that be?
Yes. Definitely. Probably the main thing is how important and relevant is your influence in the rest of people. And that happened to me very early when I moved to Sara Lee. I joined that business as the CFO. I became from my treasury role in P&G into this much bigger role in terms of responsibility. And you think that is by working very hard, very diligently that you're gonna be successful. But the piece that I learned the most is the impact that you have having people. How you walk in the office, how you react to problems, how you react to stress, how you debate with other people is going to be observed. So you have to realize that you're going to have a big influence and big impact in people, and you got to be very conscious of it, and then translate that into something very positive. Take advantage of that situation and make sure you bring people to the space where they can be very successful. That is, I believe, one of the key learnings when I first took over the CFO role.
Hey, we always like to ask our guests to reflect a little on the personal side with us. What's something maybe your colleagues don't know about you? Some interest that you have? Something, a past chapter that seldom is talked about? Yeah.
Yeah, let me tell you, and probably it's going to come on the soft side, I would say, Jack. I'm a firm believer that it's not only your mind what will make someone successful, but it's your heart. And the more you're able to connect your mind and your heart, the more powerful what you do is going to become. The way you engage with a company, the way you engage with your people. If you are asking yourself constantly, not only what I think about it, but how I feel about it, the way you want to connect is going to be very, very strong, very powerful. So I would say, that ability, and I learned it the hard way. I was not born with that ability by any means. It took me to go through a bit of a stress situation at some point in time in my life that I, through a coach, I realized that I was not connecting my heart and my brain properly. And he helped me learn how to do that. And that's something that whenever I feel little stress, I make the pause and I question myself immediately. How am I feeling about this? Not what I'm thinking. How am I feeling about this thing? And it changes my perspective dramatically. So connecting your heart is what I would say. It's something that not very common sometimes from finance people, but it makes a huge difference.
Nice, thank you for that. We are up to our final question. What we'd like to know are what your priorities are for the coming 12 months as CFO of Improving. What would those priorities be?
We are actually going over a whole process of refinancing our current debt, Jack, because what we want to do is to make sure that we have the ability to go very aggressively on the M&A side. We want to continue expanding very aggressively on that front. And I need to make sure that I have the ability to finance that growth. So making sure that financing is in place in a way that not only cover my current needs, but my future needs, which are pretty aggressive, are the things that I'm focusing a lot at this moment. Obviously, keep growing my team, in terms of their leadership skills and making sure that they are very involved, that they learn the business more. This AI piece, making sure that we as a company are very aligned as to, how this tool is going to impact our work and that we manage it ourselves, not let it manages us, it's another key priority. And definitely making sure that I provide the right information for the commercial teams and the operation teams to make the right decisions. Those are the three things that I want to focus heavily in the next 12 months, I will say.
Jorge Pliego, thank you for joining us on CFO Thought Leader.
Thanks to you, Jack. A pleasure. Thanks, everyone.